much for your patience. I think we're going to start this relatively on time. So allow me, first of all, thank you for being here so much. Thank you for supporting the show. It means a lot to us. And allow me to introduce our panelists, starting with Executive Producer, Supervising Director Dave Filoni. Executive Producer Simon Kinberg. The voice of Kanan, Freddie Prinze Jr. The voice of Hera, Vanessa Marshall. The voice of Ezra, Taylor Gray. The voice of Sabine, Tiya Sircar. And finally, the voice of Zeb, Steve Blum. And so you guys, like I said, we're going to do this just old school honor system style. You raise your hands, I'll pick you, and hopefully we'll get to everybody, okay? I know.
Thank you all for coming. I can definitely tell the voices with all of you.
Awesome.
So who is going to be voicing Darth Vader this season?
Me.
Me.
Simon, you go. Yeah, absolutely.
The same person that voiced Darth Vader in the original movies. Mr. James Earl Jones. One of the most, I would say, one of many surreal things in making this show, maybe the actually most surreal thing, is Dave sent me when he first worked with James on the dialogue, recorded it. He sent me like voice recordings, clips essentially, of the dailies of hearing all of the different takes and hearing James Earl Jones, untreated, obviously, playing the part of lines that Dave and I essentially had written together was pretty insane. When you grow up, you think like, I'm going to write lines for Darth Vader, but I'm not actually going to get Darth Vader to say them out loud. And that was listening to Darth Vader say them out loud, so that's who's going to play Darth.
That's such an awesome answer.
Every appearance this season of Vader?
Yeah, so far. And you know, James is great. You don't really direct him, but he'd sit there and say, "No, David, I haven't done this in 10 years. Could you remind me?" I'm like, "No, you're doing it." Matt Wood and I just look at each other and kind of high five when he's not looking, and it's an awesome moment.
There were a couple moments in the takes though where he coughed or he corrected himself and started over.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you realize there is a man playing Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Playing Darth Vader. It's sort of like being a child and having the helmet come off.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys let us in on those sessions?
Yeah, no, Mandalorians.
Just a lot. Just
Too dangerous.
They don't trust us.
Oh, I know.
Hi.
First of all, congratulations on the success of season 1. We're really excited about season 2. Going into season 2, are you feeling any added pressure to deliver to the fans, especially now that you're wrapping it up, adding more characters to Clone Wars?
I don't. No, I mean, I think maybe they do. The actors could speak to it. I mean, for me, this is like, this month is my 10th year at Lucasfilm, creating Star Wars. April 26th was the day I officially started working on Star Wars all those years ago. So it's just, for me, it's just fun. You know, the story gets bigger, the stakes get higher, it's as it should be. I feel a little bit we're moving into our kind of Empire Strikes Back era for our characters where they're really challenged. As the first year is kind of a new hope, and I mean, all their characters are going through trials of different kinds.
I think also there's an automatic pressure when you do anything that has the word Star Wars in the title. So I don't know that there's sort of increased or decreased amounts of pressure. I think you always feel a responsibility. It's like writing books of the Bible. You know, you're adding books to the New or Old Testament. So you know, once you start, you know the pressure is going to be that throughout.
They stole my answer.
Hi. Okay. I'm Fernando from Chile, and I would like to ask Dave and Simon. Many kids, you know, are introduced to the Star Wars world through Rebels now. So I would like for you to talk about that process and how's that, you know, important for you. And I also would like to know what are your thoughts about the future of the Star Wars world? You know that now that George Lucas retired and like new people in charge.
Sure. Well, we should both. Well, the first question, introducing kids to a new Star Wars or to Star Wars for the first time. I have 2 boys myself who are actually here. We're 5 and 9 years old, and grew up on Clone Wars as much as they grew up on the movies, actually. And I see their friends are experiencing Star Wars for the first time through Rebels. And for us, knowing the responsibility of that, one of the things that was really important from the beginning was to give them the experience that we had as kids, which was the really first point of entry being the original films. And so we wanted the tone, the feel, the texture of those movies to be really present in the show. And I think, one of the things that's been really gratifying about the response to the show is that, hardcore fans and even more casual fans, but who appreciate the original movies, see the connection tonally, emotionally, thematically between what we're doing and what George did from the beginning. And I think the future of the Star Wars movies, I'm involved in some of the films in different capacities, and I think that same approach of wanting to have the ethos of the original films is what they're doing in all the different aspects, whether it's the video games or the movies, the standalone movies, what we're doing. And I think because of that, they feel all of a piece and all of a sort of a singular voice and vision, even though there's different filmmakers involved with each. And I think the fans will feel similarly about the films and the other media the way they feel so far about Rebels.
Yeah, and I think the future, like you said, is great. And if there's any pressure, I do feel it's now that there are so many incredible things in play, that we want everything to be of a very, very, very high quality. So I think typically, let's just say when you get to animation, a lot of times you do an animated version of things. People tend to think, oh, it's just for kids, or it'd be simpler, dumbed down, and we never had that attitude on Clone Wars, and we certainly have not had that attitude on Rebels. I think it started out in a way that's fun and exciting, people forgetting that A New Hope was originally by George designed for kids, but it was also designed so parents would watch it and be engaged. And when I see the Force Awakens trailer and I get excited about that, I want to deliver the same type of excitement to the audience of Rebels. There isn't a way that I want to take it and have it feel any diminished. So we want every aspect of Star Wars that we're working on at Lucasfilm to be truly great and to reflect each other's great work. And I think that's kind of the pressure, but it's also, better in a way because now I work with more people like Simon and Kerry Hart and Kerry Beck and Ray Roberts, and a writing team. It helps that you have so many people that have this love of Star Wars in common to help lead the way.
It is really like a singular family, too. I mean, the people that Dave is talking about, they're the story group at Lucasfilm, and they're involved and there is real communication between all the different stories. So we talk to the 7, 8, 9 filmmakers, they talk to the standalone film. We are all collaborating together to tell, a sort of huge story that each of us tells a chapter of.
Hey guys, I know you guys have your hands up, but we've got 2 mic runners on the side, so just go grab their attention and they'll bring you a mic.
Good afternoon, Dave Vermillion with Geeks United. Get your geek on. Thanks for taking the time out here. You can laugh, it's okay, I get that a lot. It's ours, we work it, we rock it. Dave and Simon, Taylor Gray's character, Ezra Bridger, was called a street rat in season 1. The fans have taken to calling him Space Aladdin. Even his name Ezra is known from a character from Disney lore. Are there any other Disney influences or Easter eggs that we should be looking for in season 1 or future seasons?
Not that I know. That was a flattering comparison, I have to say, as someone that grew up in animation, loving animation, a great film and a great character Disney had created. Ezra's design came about because I was sketching him on my kitchen table at home one day, which doesn't happen a lot, and my wife happened past the table, and I said, "What do you think of this?" And she was like, I was like, "What do you mean?" And she just kept walking, and she's like, "Well, it's okay, but it looks like everything else." And this was before I changed the design, and so, it kind of made me look back at a lot of different characters, heroes, and character actors, and actually, oddly, Aladdin wasn't one of them. If anything, it was, I looked a little bit Ralph Macchio. I'll be honest with you, because, you know, it's like, what was great about this 80s actors, and
When am I gonna learn how to punch?
you know, yeah, exactly. So, you know, but I don't think there's any, I don't do like hidden Mickeys or stuff like that. It's cool for the parks, but you know, it wouldn't be, people find those all the time, so who knows? Maybe my designers put them in, I don't know.
Thank you.
Seb's a secret Disney princess.
Hi there, question for Dave and Simon. You've announced that Sarah Michelle Gellar is part of the cast, and Freddie, I guess. Can you tease anything about her character, or how soon we'll see her, and what's she like in the recording booth?
Ooh, my wife?
That'd be awesome.
She played the Wookiee in season 1. Nobody believes me when I say it. She plays Chewbacca's lady in our show, season 2. And I talked about this on a podcast a while ago and broke down the entire season 2 with her and her Wookiee presence during the season. Outside of that, I can't tell you anything because it would spoil the surprise. But yeah, she's really hairy and has a great low morale. She's a powerful actress, and you know, she can grunt with the best of them.
Hi, Will from Geeks with Wives. This question is for Freddie.
I'm one of those.
Freddie, your character obviously is kind of still shrouded in mystery. How much of the character's backstory did you get when you took on the role, and are we going to find out more about it in season 2?
Yeah, Dave gave everyone a really big breakdown on what made these characters tick, so that our season 1 performances would be reflective of the history that's gone on so far. So I knew about his master. I knew about, you know, Order 66. I knew about, I was going to say Protocol 66, even though it's Order 66. I have to stop myself. But I knew about all that and how it affected him and what he did during that time. That's thanks to Dave and Greg Weisman when we were just getting ready to do the pilot that they turned into 2 episodes and aired as a movie. So we kind of knew all that going in, and in season 2, as far as Kanan's character goes, you're gonna learn a lot about why he is who he is today, why he's the type of teacher he is, his qualities and his faults, and you'll find out a lot of that through a very special character who kind of helps motivate some of those feelings to come out. So you'll definitely learn pretty much all the questions you have. There'll still be a couple, you know. Yeah. They made you wait 3 movies before Vader got it in the end. So right. You gotta wait a little bit. But yeah, we give you a lot more in season 2.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, this is a question for Dave. Now, earlier in the panel, you mentioned that if the story was right, there are certain characters you might consider bringing back. You know, are there any characters from the previous stories or even the defunct expanded universe now that you would be interested in perhaps trying to chase that story, or do you just kind of let it come naturally?
I think you always have characters in mind that you'd like to see interface. We throw names around the room. I mean, everybody in the writer's room is a fan. So everybody has certain characters that they would love to see. And sometimes you're never sure like how serious people are or not, you know, when they bring people up. And you have to be careful with that. Because if you're joking and say, you know, how about we bring Porkins in? That'd be great. And then all of a sudden something happens and you're like, hey, Porkins would fit for that. And the person's face is suddenly like serious and they're like, no, I was joking. And I'll seize on that idea with my sense of humor and be like, oh no. Now he's in. But he's not. So
That's not Sarah's character.
yeah, no, sometimes it only gets so far. You know, you never know. I'm not sure what makes us decide a particular character's coming in or out. Sometimes, you know, we'll get to talking when we're in the script phase, and we'll have, honestly, recently, a recent problem we have is there are so many cool things happening in the script. I was like, Simon, I only have 21 minutes and 30 seconds. This would be awesome as like a 90-minute movie, but I have 21 minutes, and he's like, yeah, I know, I've been writing it, it's hard to get in there. So sometimes we'll try to spread stuff out. Then we work on this up until the last minute possible. Nothing is ever set in stone. Everything is changeable. It's not like we just get the script, that's the blueprint, we follow it. We deconstruct it along the way, try to get it as right as we can. And luckily I work with guys like Simon, Greg, Henry Gilroy. Then they're really good at moving through that as I'm trying to direct it and get the best story we can, and changing sometimes a lot, sometimes little.
And we get a lot of time too, which I don't really, almost more than features for me. We get a lot of brainstorming time. So we get a lot of blue sky meetings. What should this season be? And we really spend probably months on that. We're doing it while we're also writing episodes for the previous season, but there is a lot of time to dream and to play around.
Hi, Thomas from Star Wars in the Classroom. And hey, go Rogues. She is. We provide resources for teaching Star Wars K-12. And Star Wars Rebels provides rich ground for doing so. So my question for you guys is, what do you think, and this anybody on the panel, what do you think are the big lessons that are being taught through these stories?
I mean, Star Wars shows you that the good guys don't always win, right?
Right.
Star Wars teaches about patience. Star Wars teaches about discipline. Star Wars teaches about a lot of social issues that most sci-fi can't really touch on, outside of racism, right? That's one that's in every sci-fi movie. But they deal with a lot of cultural things, a lot of government issues. And in our show alone, we deal with those things. And the movies can go in much more deeper in some instances. But I would say it teaches a lot more about real life than a lot of the stuff out there. You know what I mean? Most stuff you see, you know the good guy is, you know the bad guy is, and you know who's going to win and who's going to lose. And Star Wars doesn't give that to you. That's I think why it was always so powerful in not only my mind but most people's, is because you genuinely relate to it. It's not just I wish I was Han Solo. You relate to Han Solo, right? You wish you were Superman, or you're a kid if you like DC, or you wished you were Spider-Man if you like Marvel. But you didn't really relate. Well, you can relate to Peter, I guess, but so that's not a good example. But you know what I'm trying to say. Everybody relates to Peter. He's a pretty kid with problems. So. To me, Star Wars was always kind of, this is the real world, and you can work as hard as you possibly can and do your best and still fail. And it's what does a Jedi do once they fail. And that's sort of what shapes us as a man, shapes us as a woman, as a human, whatever. As a Wookiee, whatever.
I'm moved by the hope that is present in the show. I think it's a great thing for kids to latch onto, and especially these days. And I love the idea of the spark of a rebellion, that it takes an initial idea and then it's followed through with action. As Freddie said, you don't always succeed, but at least you can have hope. I love that we seem to be giving that message to the younger generation, and also encouraging them to follow through on their ideas, and that it's worth it to get a group together and not just talk about it, but actually take action and do it and walk the walk. So I think it's a great metaphor.
I love that it addresses the possibility of transformation also. No matter what's happened to you in your life, there's always a possibility of changing and growing and developing into something better, and seeing a possible future no matter what the odds. And that's really encouraging to me. I'm a dad too, and so I love to instill that in my kids. No matter what's happening to you, you can always change that.
Hi, Jason from On Bad Radio, a podcast who's interviewed a lot of the Clone Wars guys and hopes one day to interview you guys as well. I thanked you yesterday, Dave, for a diverse cast in every show. It's amazing to see. I specify male and female, but also across the board, and the Rebels is no different. Another thing you do really well is keep spoilers from us. We don't have the show ruined. It's something I greatly appreciate.
Even when you guys boo him.
Yeah, without being sarcastic, it's appreciated. That said, in the trailer that we've now got online and that people are looking at across the globe, there are obviously return characters already been talked about. There are some new characters as well. Did we see a female and male Inquisitor? Is there anything you can say about any of that? I don't know how much you're allowed to say, but that's a question.
Hang on 1 second.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay, so we've deliberated, and the answer is, I don't know. I mean, I do know, so that's a blatant lie. But I think the fun part about any trailer, right, is once you see it, there are the things that are designed to hit you immediately, like the Rex moment, having Hondo in there, the obvious things you see, and then, but as you watch a trailer over and over again, if they're designed well, they have layers, and each time you watch it, you get a little more out of it, a little more out of it. So those are all the great things that become questions that debated. I just had a kid behind stage asking me, like, who are those other clones? Are those clones with Rex? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And, you know, but that's what I want you to be asking, because it keeps you engaged, and it keeps you hoping, and it gives you something to ask me when at these conventions. So, you know, eventually when it gets answered, it's hopefully awesome and what you want. Or then, no one ever asks me after it's out, right? That's the funny thing. It's always a forward thing. I always think we'll get to, like, then they'll ask me all about details of season 1. Nope, everybody's on to season 2, which is cool. I mean, because that means we've answered all your questions, I guess, about the previous season.
Good afternoon, Katie Cullen with AfterBuzz TV. To touch on the previous season, thank you for that segue, one of the big questions was, what happened to Ezra's parents? We haven't seen them. Will we be covering that in any capacity in the upcoming season? And, given what happened at the panel, will we hear anything about Sabine's family?
What's wrong, Sabine?
I didn't really mean to. I think I misspoke because I didn't mean that anywhere. Sorry.
What do you think, Tia? That is fun.
I'm the worst person to ask about what's happening with Sabine's story. I don't know anything. I find out when we get the script before, like a couple days before the episode records.
We will be addressing, you know, definitely Ezra's parents to some degree. We think it's important. It's, you know, because it came up, we all noticed that kids focus in on that, you know, it's something to be responsible with answering that question. And you know, now that he has this other family, what happened to his mom and dad? And we've had them, you know, visually in the show, you know what they look like. So that will be a part of the story. And I think the nice thing about season 2 is you get a broader look at all the characters. Now that you know who they are to some level, it's not just Sabine, maybe, and what her background is, but also Hera and Zeb, Ezra, Kanan. You know, it's a lot of people wanted that. You even eventually get more of a depth backstory on Chopper and where Chopper's from. So you kind of get it all this year. It's fun.
Do we have to?
Of course.
My name is Josh from KBVB TV and Total Pirate Productions, and my question actually is for Steve, because one, my best friend for 20 years, his name's Zeb. Yeah, he is. So my question is we saw a little bit in season 1 of Zeb kind of had a backstory. Are we going to go in more into it about his species and what his story is and why he hates the Empire as much as he does?
It could absolutely happen.
That's an answer like Dave.
Yeah,
that was very good.
He's my mentor. I'm his Padawan.
You don't want to get fired.
Then Dave, is there more of a backstory for Zeb? I'll ask Dave this.
Simon, what do you think?
It'd be fascinating to explore.
Oh my God.
We're all trained by Dave.
No, I can't.
Me too.
I'm so evil.
We go deeper into all the characters' backstory in the second season. Like Dave said, the first season's about introducing them in many ways, and also about integrating a new member into the family with Ezra. And the second season, we can go a little deeper into their backstories and into their interpersonal relationships too.
We got a lot more time season 2 also. We don't have to, you know, we had a shorter season 1, so we get more time to explore everybody in season 2 as well.
I feel like in season 1 there was a lot more about like the familial dynamics and how like establishing who is what within this little ragtag, you know, crew. And I feel like in season 2 so far we've really gotten to explore like certain pairings that you haven't seen yet will you know within the crew happen and go on like really interesting adventures. I can say that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's all fun.
And it's really fun because you're starting to see sort of each person's personalities as an individual kind of coming to light, and then you do get to find out more stuff about some of us, all of us, some of us.
All of them.
Hello everyone. Kevin Cleveland from thegeektable.com. First, just want to say thank you for having this panel on my birthday. It's a great birthday present. This question is actually for Freddie. you know, coming from being an actor in front of the camera to doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff like with the WWE, and now still being a bit behind the camera, but also in front of the camera with at least the voice role. How does that feel to get kind of back to what you were doing before a little bit more?
I mean, that's a long answer, and the short one might sound kind of generic, but you know, I honestly have more fun doing this than any acting job on camera that I ever did. We get to basically do a radio show every week, and we're all in a room together. There's no hair and makeup. There's no wardrobe people fixing my collar because it moved 1/4 of an inch, and you know, it's a lot easier if you're a father of 2 to work once a week in the Valley for 6 hours than to go to Australia for 6 months and not see your family. So it's not a transition for me at all. I wanted to be a father more than an actor. So once my daughter was born, I already kind of had one foot out the door already. Vanessa, are you crying behind my head? Oh, okay. I thought Vanessa was shedding tears. Tiya's shedding tears now?
No, I can vouch. He's the best dad in the world. This guy is literally dad number 1. He is, indeed.
Top 10. But yeah, man, so it wasn't a transition. This is what I did when I was 8 years old, and now I get to do it, and it looks way cooler because they animated it. So yeah, it wasn't a transition. I really love it.
Thank you.
It helps that you're really good at it too.
Oh, well, thank you.
There's that.
Thanks.
Hi guys, I'm Shawn Parler. I'm right here in the back.
Okay.
Hey. Hey. First off, Andre Blackman called me, says hi to Vanessa and Tiya, so I want to tell him. But I'm a big fan of the show. I've asked and met Steve a bunch of times. Hey Steve, good to see you. I always ask this at cons. For you guys, with Star Wars having a lot of new toys, do you guys own any toys of your characters, or what would you see from the show become a toy?
I mean, I got 2 kids, so there's a lot of Kanans and Zebs in my house. We've got a couple of Jason Isaac Inquisitors in there. Yeah, we got a lot. We got a lot. They're more for my kids than for me. I'm not, you know, Rick Moranis in a room by myself. But I'll play with the kids and stuff like that. So.
Vanessa?
I spent a whole night putting together every Lego set that they sent me. So I have the Ghost. I have each one of our characters. I think.
Don't you have the Nerf lightsaber too?
I have the lightsaber. I have
You have
every
your
single
lightsaber with
I have that lightsaber. I have Vader's lightsaber, I believe. Red.
Yeah.
Red. Just throw it out there.
We all got really awesome stormtrooper helmets with Sabine's graffiti on it, which is awesome. And Vanessa and I got presented with Sabine helmets made by the Mandalorian mercs. And it was they're
And
so
the airbrush
legit.
gun, too.
Oh, and the gun, and a plaque. It was
Yeah,
lovely.
it was really
so
cool.
I just need the outfit now.
I don't have
We
nearly
can
enough.
make that happen.
I don't have nearly enough toys yet. I'm going shopping right after this.
I have all of them.
I think so.
Hey guys, Christian Karloff from AMC Jedi Council and Schmoes Know. So the question I have for you guys, Dave and Simon, is because we know the time period that this takes place in between 4 or 5 years before New Hope. How many seasons do you guys think it's going to take you to tell the story up to where we need to go, where we all know it goes? And the second part for that question is, let's say a particular movie, spin-off movie, takes place in that timeline. Say Rogue One, maybe not. In that timeline, how much information would you guys be able to get to give the actors some backstory that they might need leading up to that period?
Well, I mean, as we were saying, all of the creatives kind of collaborate. We know what each other are doing. So the purpose of that is so that we're always aware of the continuity and the different stories. So if there was a situation where that was happening, then we would absolutely know in detail what was going on, and then I can inform my actors as necessary, or our writers, you know. But that's kind of the beauty of the new story group scenario, is it all interconnected, and that's the purpose for it, to keep the stories all on track, depending where people are. And the story group is the one that comes in and says, I like that idea, but that's going to be happening somewhere over here. So we're going to have that idea over here and this over here. As far as how many seasons we could go, I'm not exactly sure. I never know. I got asked that question every year on Clone Wars. And I thought it was a 2-year job, in all honesty, when I started it. That was the most animated series that I'd worked on, be about 2 years. So I thought I'd move to Bay Area for 2 years and move back to LA. I've been there 10 years. So I never know. I mean, I think it's kind of as long as there's a demand for it. I think I do have a little more of an arc in mind for Rebels SCU, and we talk about kind of that bigger picture because we are running up to A New Hope. That is a flagpole that we know. So that's kind of a question on how will we deal with that incident in the galaxy should our timeline reach that.
Hey, James Burns from Jedi News, also writer for StarWars.com and The Insider. Couple of two-part question. First one, was it incidental that all of the character names are all biblical? Because that's something that we've noticed. I don't think you've ever been asked that before. But if you look at all of the names, they're all directly from the Bible. So that's the first part. The second part of the question is, we've already seen there's a new look for Tiya coming in season 2 and some of the other cast. So how far along is season 2? Is there a big jump from where we left off at the end of season 1? Or is it just carrying on in the timeline and, you know, Tiya's decided to have a hair done?
Good question.
The name question is interesting because it was, I should find the documents we have of all of our names that we tossed back and forth. Greg and Dave and Kiri and all of us. I mean, no, those are the names. Should be named Dave.
Yes.
You know, one of the things we did say consciously was that there was a biblical sense to the naming and to this sort of seriousness of purpose of the original movies. And you know, there's the Cloaks themselves have a religious feel to them. So that was, I don't know that, at least for me, it was conscious that each one was, and frankly is news to me that each one is from the Bible.
Yeah.
But it was, we were aware that there were elements of that in the original films that we were trying to connect to.
Is Chopper Old Testament or New Testament?
He's definitely Old Testament.
He's the oldest. I definitely, you know, the idea of Luke's name, Luke Skywalker, and I like to point out when I get in the room with the writers that, you know, the names in Star Wars are very purposeful, but when you get into the expanding universe, they become often very odd and contain a lot of X, Y's, and Z's, and, you know, hyphens, and that's all fine, but when you're in a medium like we are, you know, Han Solo, okay, guy's pretty much by himself, right? And that's kind of the genius of George, is that he would disguise this stuff. I didn't think about that when I was a kid. You don't know the derivations of these names, but names have a purpose. You know, if you know someone's full name in folklore, then you have power over them, right? Because if you to know someone's name gives you an understanding of who they are. You know, so, you know, I joke, I've got a guy in the crew named Spotswood, and I mean, your family, at some point, probably had a particular task that involved, you know, finding the firewood or searching, hunting for something, because that's where names come from. They don't just, you know, to make up a name that is odd, you know, just for the sake of it sounding like a space world name isn't really what Star Wars does. So I think that having these names, you know, Hera, a very purposeful name for the type of character that she is. You know, Chopper, he's a disruptive little character that causes problems. He chops things up. I mean, it's blatant, but when the characters work, when you like the characters, it doesn't matter. You just accept them. And so I think that's what we do. We try to create a lot of these names. And you know, like with Ezra was definitely a connection to the fact that I liked the name Luke, and it was a real kid's name. And we both actually know a kid named Ezra in our lives. And I'm like, that sounds like Star Wars to me. And Simon's like, yeah, I agree. And that was basically it.
We actually wrote an article for StarWars.com about the name, because we actually went into the media.
Oh, wow.
And the powers that be said, no, we can't run that because we don't know whether it's true. So,
oh, interesting.
So I'll get it to you.
There was something interesting.
That's cool, man.
And some of it is a strange, and I can't remember, I think there was a slight intention around Bridger. That Bridger, he's the character, he's the bridge between the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. So there is a bridging of topics. So you get it as a bridge.
The wave of all.
See, and whether we intended that or not, now because of your correction, we actually thought of that. Very well, thorough. Good job, Simon.
Hey guys, Lucas Siegel over here from comicbook.com and StarWars.com as well. You talked about, Tiya mentioned, the theme of family for season 1, and Vanessa and I had a conversation about the theme of turning points for season 1, where each character had a really specific turning point. What would you say is a general theme for season 2, and is there also a character theme for season 2 like that?
You're always good with that. You're the theme guy. You're so good with that.
It's interesting. I think this season, the way we approached season 2 was sort of new challenges to the family, from the outside rather than from the inside. I think in many ways the first season, the challenge was integrating a new member of a family into an existing family. And that's a difficult thing to do, whether it's a stepchild or an adopted child or whatever it is, new parent. There's a lot of things in real life that are real life corollaries for what the first season was exploring. And I think the second season was, now that they are essentially, with their normal familial issues, a unit, a family. It's sort of how do they continue to grow individually, and how do they stay together as each of them is growing, as each of them is facing new challenges, and in some ways grow up. I think a lot of the second season is about Ezra facing some sort of darker issues and being forced to grow up through them.
Yeah, definitely. That's great.
Hi, I'm Scott Murray with the Assembly of Geeks